This is Protiviti Legal Perspectives.
Welcome to Protiviti's Legal Perspectives podcast series. I'm your host, Chad Volkert, a global solution leader here at Protiviti. I'm excited today to have a managing director, Marshall Matus of our legal consulting practice, on with us. Marshall's got vast experience across many alternative legal service areas, most notably in and around investigations, litigation, and e-discovery. Welcome to the show, Marshall.
Chad, it's really nice to be here with you. As you mentioned, I have had a varied practice here at Protiviti. I joined the firm in 2011, and I've done work in commercial disputes, antitrust litigation, other government response, as well as having a varied managed solution practice in many different disciplines, all in the legal realm.
That's great, Marshall. Maybe let's start with how the in-house counsel often walk a tightrope right now between transparency for potential players and protecting the company's confidential data during due diligence. How can in-house counsel and legal departments strike a balance between transparency and confidentiality in the world we live in right now?
You're right. It's a high wire act. There's competing interests that need to be balanced. And it's not always clear at the outset of any matter where you are going to be performing due diligence, how you're going to weigh those interests so that you have a clear plan forward. One of the things that we often advise up front is to agree on definitions for what information you're going to protect, what information you are going to allow greater transparency into, and then also take into account the sequencing of the potential transaction at hand. Are you going to have multiple stages of bidding? Are you going to have one bidder with multiple stages of negotiation? There's different factors depending on the matter at hand that I think that we'll probably talk more about here that will inform the process of how do you do the upfront expectation setting for the data respective to your company or enterprise or firm.
So, maybe taking that to the next step, it seems to me that many companies are becoming more and more proactive in when to bring in advisory services, complements within the consulting area that partner effectively with outside counsel. So what advice do you give companies, whether that's at the C-suite, inclusive of the CLO or the general counsel office, on how long do they wait to really bring in that trusted advisor or to begin to build out a plan for outside consulting or support?
It can depend on a couple of factors, but the majority of the time, you're going to want to have your advisors in near at the onset of your awareness of the matter. You may have a particular regulatory issue that you think that you can handle in-house before bringing in outside advisors. And a portion of the time, maybe that's right. But the majority of the time, you need to have clear planning for how you're going to bring in not just consultants, they could be outside law firms, they could be outside specialists with particular domain expertise, or they could be technology experts who you're going to have brought in to help you unpack proprietary data software, databases that you have, very structured data sets. So the earlier that you bring folks in, the more they can be part of the planning and the more varied your input can be when you develop your methodology for responding to that matter.
That's great insight. And so, as you're looking at the landscape with a executive or operational leader at an organization, you're touching on sort of mapping out that plan, and you're also beginning to talk about the vast amounts of data. So maybe shifting gears slightly, when it comes to AI and machine learning playing even a larger role across the enterprise, but certainly within the investigation, e-discovery, litigation area, as far as how the prioritization and identification of data and information plays for an organization, what are some of the potential benefits that you're seeing out there right now based on advising in and around AI, as well as some of the AI-powered solutions?
This is the subject where some folks look at it with rose-colored glasses and they see this panacea of technology solving problems heretofore either unsolved or solved with great manual effort. On the other side, you see resistance to technology inserting itself in untested, sometimes potentially undefensible ways. The consistent guidance that we give to clients is that all technology, when it's used, needs to be measured, judged, assessed, and validated by a human. You build in different control points depending on what sort of AI you're going to use, what your workflow is, and what your matter is. Let me give you a for instance. Let's talk about litigation. Let's talk about technology-assisted review, or TAR. TAR is great at binary classification, but it has issues with some forms of binary classification. TAR is based on certain algorithms that were developed by experts who are not on this call. And those experts based it on models such as latent semantic analysis, latent semantic indexing, which share some similarities there, or support vector machines. Support vector machines are newer and they use different hyperplanes to judge text, the semantic text of a document. But not every document has text. If your matter is related to transactions, you're going to have a lot of numbers. You're going to have a lot of formulas, perhaps, in those Excels. Not every matter is going to be the best use case for a TAR or a technology-assisted AI process. Other matters we see being impacted in ways that have not yet been seen before. Currently, we are using AI in a novel way. One of the first instances that we're aware of in this way to decompose large stacks of contracts that are already digitized to break out all the clauses in them. And we're combining AI, which we prompt, as you would expect just when you're using something like ChatGPT, and we combine it with Python scripting and other scripting in order to have a back and forth between the AI, Python, and an output so that you can look at results, you can judge them at each step of the way, and you can validate that the results are meeting expectation. And if they're not, you know at what point that situation broke down, and you can correct or course correct.
Well, and that's a great example of using a large language models, building out a process, a playbook for clients as you look through that data. Maybe go one step further for me, Marshall. Can you give a specific client example?
Let's talk about something I've been dealing with all day today. We want to be top. It's a simple matter that everyone goes through. The matter's not simple, but the topic is this: an internal investigation. Suspected fraud occurring at this company. We have email to consider an investigation. We have other data that might be on SharePoint or Teams. That's easy, that's common. But how are you going to apply AI to an investigation beyond the typical data points? How are you going to look at your Salesforce data, for instance, your expense data in a Concur environment, your ServiceNow tickets? How are you going to take data from there when your collection is likely going to be very broad, and use technology to make it more narrow, to make it more manageable, to make it more efficient? And what we're seeing is people often are resorting to keywords. How can I use keywords to cut through this data? Keywords are no longer in favor in 2024. They have a purpose. They will continue to have a purpose, but they're not going to be the way that you're going to get through that data. What you're going to do is you're going to load your information into an AI system, and then in that AI system, you're going to query against that data. And then you're going to do representative sampling to validate the results of what you're looking at.
That's fantastic insight, Marshall. Maybe just to add a little more in the AI space, what should a client be considering when they're thinking about utilizing AI and expertise that you and the team may bring to bear to solve an issue?
With any sort of emerging technology, such as AI, that you're going to use in high-stakes situations, you need to be considerate of the issues before the matter arises. So what you're going to want to do with your outside consultants and internally as well is develop a playbook. Identify your internal data sources, identify different matter types that are frequent to your enterprise, and then develop a playbook for how you're going to use that specific data in an AI context, how you're going to review it, how you're going to control for it, and then look into establishing defensibility before you make the decision to use it, and build that defensibility into your playbook.
Awesome, Marshall. Well, again, thanks so much for being on the program today. I'm Chad Volkert, your host. Again, until next time, be well.
Thank you for listening today. Find other episodes of Protiviti Legal Perspectives on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcast content. And to learn more about Protiviti's legal consulting services, visit protiviti.com.